and welcome to the third edition of the UNews Weekly, coming to you from the UN Information Office in Uzbekistan in cooperation with all 9 UN agencies operating in the country.
We're happy today to inform you about the most important UN news of the week. I'm Layla Fatih and
I am Bobo Kamilov. Welcome to the show. So in today's program, message from the UN Secretary General for 2013 International Year of Water Cooperation.
Water is central to the well-being of people and the planet. We need it for health, food security, and economic progress.
We will hear from Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO, talking about the World Radio Day.
In this age of new media, radio remains the medium that can carry any message to any place at any time.
We will hear an interview with Krista Pickett, a representative from UNESCO Tashkent, who spoke about the UN Radio Day.
As we promote communication and information, the media, pluralism, the independent media, professional capacities of journalists are very important in our program.
Also our guest today, Faizullah Salahuddinov, managing a project on budget system reforms.
This gender budgeting is aimed to provide more opportunities to women to realize their potential.
But first, International Water Day is held annually on the 22nd of March as a means of focusing attention on the importance of fresh water and advocating for the sustainable management of freshwater resources. UN Water has called upon UNESCO to lead the 2013 United Nations International Year on Water Cooperation, and Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, delivered a speech in which he outlined the importance of the International Year of Water Cooperation. Have a look.
I'm pleased to greet all participants at the inaugural event of the International Year of Water Cooperation. Water is central to the well-being of people and the planet. We need it for health, food security, and economic progress. Water holds the key to sustainable development. We must work together to protect and carefully manage this fragile, finite resource. Each year brings new pressures on water. Growing populations, climate change. 1/3 of the world's people already live in countries with moderate to high water stress. Competition is growing between farmers and herders, industry and agriculture, town and country. Upstream and downstream and across borders, we need to cooperate for the benefit of all now and in the future. The United Nations General Assembly has designated 2013 the International Year of Water Cooperation. Let us harness the best technologies and share the best practices to get more crop per drop. Let us promote water rights, waste less, and design intelligent policies so all users get a fair share. Let us invest in water. Water is life.
Radio is one of the most important means of widening access to knowledge, promoting freedom of expression, and encouraging mutual respect and multicultural understanding. So let's listen to a message from Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO, talking about the World Radio Day.
We celebrate radio today because radio still reaches more people than the internet or television. In this age of new media, radio remains the medium that can carry any message to any place at any time. It is both a platform for global conversation and a forum to address local problems. It provides a voice to the voiceless, to the poor, to minorities, to women. It helps educate the illiterate, and it saves lives during natural disasters. For the world's growing youth population, radio is a channel for sharing and learning. This is why we must promote freedom of opinion and expression and protect the safety of all journalists. This is why we must harness radio's power to build new bridges of respect and understanding between people. This has never been as important as it is today. We are living in the digital age, but radio remains a force to shape the world for lasting peace and sustainable development. This is our message on World Radio Day.
As the entire world celebrated the World Radio Day this week, Nigina Khaitova of the UN Information Office went along to speak to Mrs. Krista Pikat, who's the head of UNESCO's Tashkent office, to talk about the importance of World Radio Day and why radio matters in promotion of culture, understanding and development.
Thank you very much, Krista, for your time. And my first question is, why is World Radio Day so important? Why does it matter?
World Radio Day is important because it was proposed by the General Conference of UNESCO in 2011 that the world should celebrate the World Radio Day. Then the General Assembly endorsed the proposal, given that the world community recognizes that it is a means that reaches the biggest numbers of people still. Radio, according to ITU statistics, are available in 75% of the poorest households in the world. So it means that it's a easiest means to reach those who live in poor communities, who live in marginalized situations, who live in rural areas, and this is why everybody recognizes the importance of radio. The day was actually chosen. The date was chosen because of the fact that in 1946, on the 13th of February. It's a date of the establishment of the radio of the United Nations, and this is why it was proposed that we celebrate the World Radio Day on the 13th of February. It is also recognized that in the digital age the connectivity issues are perhaps not so important. People are reachable, but what is important is the content. So that's why UNESCO called for the celebration of the day by promoting contacts through broadcasting networks and giving the voice to those who may not necessarily have it every day. We believe that it is very important to diversify the content that is broadcast on the radio, and that this is why we should give young journalists, young people like yourself, the possibility to take the microphone and go out and speak about issues that matter to young people, so that the information that would be provided in radio would be more meaningful for different people and of different ages and different sex.
UNESCO promotes culture, art and education. And what do you make of the role of free press and journalists in this important machine?
UNESCO promotes not only education and arts and culture, but also the sciences and communication and information. And as we promote communication and information, the media, pluralism, the independent media, professional capacities of journalists are very important in our program, because UNESCO believes that the media play a very, very important role in promoting democracy, dialogue, also sustainable development. They're also the guarantors of free word and image. So this is why we pay so much attention to free media.
Krista Pikat of UNESCO Tashkent office. Thank you very much.
Bobor, gender equality is an important means and a way of achieving development. Did you know that there is a UN project working to integrate gender equality in the way that budgets are made?
It's very interesting because in the beginning of our show, you mentioned about this project, and you also mentioned an interesting term called Gender budgeting.
Yes.
Gender budgeting is quite interesting to me. I would like to find out what that means.
So let's welcome our guest, Faisal Salahuddinov, who is the project manager of the budget system reform, who can share more on what is gender budgeting.
So it's the special guest section of our program. So welcome, Faisal. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a very interesting point to start our conversation at. I think we just started earlier on with Layla about talking about gender budgeting. That's very interesting, and I'm sure many people wouldn't particularly know what that means.
Tell us what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although it's a quite new concept in Uzbekistan, but it is very popular in many other countries. Gender budgeting means application of gender mainstreaming into the budgetary process. It means, and it includes, gender-based assessment of budgets, incorporation of gender issues at all levels of budgetary process, restructuring of revenues and expenditures of the budget in order to equally address needs of men and women. It is to promote gender equality in the society.
So gender equality is about giving equal attention to the needs of both men and women, right?
Yes, it's right. But I just want to mention that, for example, if government allocates certain funds to certain sectors, for example, to the health sector, it does not automatically mean that they will address equally or fairly needs of men and women. Mm-hmm. For example, in terms of reproductive health, you will agree with me, I think, that women need more attention and more funds should be allocated in this area, in this.
It's interesting. Thank you for going into the detail with that, with the explanation of it. But I think many people would like to find out what that means for an ordinary person who doesn't work in a health sector or who doesn't work in a government organization. What would it mean for a typical family man?
As you know, gender issues and gender patterns exist in many countries, and including Uzbekistan. And the government has its commitments under MDGs and under other international conventions to address these issues and to promote and to ensure gender equality in the society. So what does it mean, gender budgeting for the particular person? Yeah, for example, if we address our attention to the women, yes, this gender budgeting is aimed to provide more opportunities to women to realize their potential, to increase the rates of employment of women, to increase the free time for women so that they will have more time to develop themselves, and ultimately it will contribute to the more effective poverty reduction. It will increase income levels of women, and ultimately it will result in economic growth.
So this means that in this important thing that you are doing in terms of making budgets gender sensitive, who do you partner with?
Budget system reform in Uzbekistan project generally aimed at reforming the budgetary system in Uzbekistan to make it more efficient, more transparent and accountable. And as one of the subcomponents, we just piloted and presented this gender budgeting concept and just attempted to make some institutional analysis and developed some indicators to present them to our main partner, Ministry of Finance, which is the implementing agency of our project, and to other key stakeholders, which are the Parliament of Uzbekistan, other key ministers and agencies.
And what about local hokimiyats? Are you engaging them as well?
Yeah, you are right. Actually, our institutional analysis was more related to the gender-sensitive analysis of local budgets. So we piloted this concept within two local authorities, with the Hokimat of Jizak province and Orta-Cherchik district of the Tashkent province.
Great. That sounds like a real achievement, Babar. What do you think?
Exactly. And you're going wider and wider. How long have you been working for now within this project?
The project has been commenced and has been implementing since July 2010. But as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, this is a quite new concept. So we just started it. We just presented the principles of gender budgeting. We are just trying to explain and to advocate this important thing, and still we need to go a long way, to say honestly, because first there are some, according to findings of our analytical work, we just find out that there are key issues. Our first is there is a need for further sensitization and awareness raising of public servants and decision makers and general public as well on the gender issues and on principles of gender budgeting. So still we need
you have some way to go as well.
Yeah.
So there's some work to
yes, there is actually a long
it's
way to go, and but we just started this. It's important to just start and to explain and to advocate that gender budgeting and
thank you. As you go along this advocacy part of your work, talking to people about gender budgeting and explaining and helping them raise their awareness, how do you explain to them its importance? What is your answer to a typical question on why it is important?
Within the project, the project supported the development of 2 analytical nodes. As I mentioned, it was some kind of institutional analysis of gender budgeting in Uzbekistan, the opportunities and perspectives for its wide practicing. And as I said, the experts, local and international experts recruited by our project, they just attempted to develop some indicators to be integrated into the budget. So in order to then to track how the gender equality issues or gender issues are addressed and are implemented within the budgetary process.
So what happens to these notes? Are they presented to the
Yes.
Ministry of Finance?
Yes.
And how does the chain go after that?
Yes, these findings, the key findings of this analytical work were presented during the roundtable to key project stakeholders, including members of the parliament and representatives of key ministries, including Ministry of Finance and others, and also NGO representatives also.
So you're engaging civil society as well,
Yeah,
which I
civil
think would be an
society as well.
important aspect of this.
These key findings were presented during this roundtable and discussed with stakeholders.
What were the findings? Who did you involve and engage during this roundtable?
As I mentioned, the key findings of these analytical papers with recommendations and with comments of international consultants and local consultants, they were presented during the roundtable, which included a roundtable discussion with key stakeholders, including members of the parliament, representatives of key ministries and agencies, including Ministry of Finance, and also we also invited NGO and civil society representatives. So key findings were actually supported by the participants of the round table, and they also supported the recommendations which are need to be followed up in order to wider use and wider practice this gender budgeting in Uzbekistan. But I just would like to mention again that, as I said, this is just a starting point for us, so we will deeper work in this direction, because, as I mentioned, further awareness raising and sensitization is needed. Also, in order to make a deep assessments of the budgets, we need a more sex disaggregated data to be available in order to identify the gender gaps in budgets and other sector and state programs. So consequently, the people who will formulate these sectoral plans and who are formulating the budget, they need to be trained in order to identify the gaps and to know, to have sufficient skills how to address these gender issues and how to incorporate gender perspective in a budgetary process.
That sounds like a plan.
Interesting. In outlining your further steps and actions in promoting gender balance and gender budgeting in Uzbekistan, there must be some recommendations that you've worked out that you can probably share with us and with our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, as I said, in addition to what I have already said, the other key recommendations is to further conduct studies to provide empirical evidence to the decision makers that addressing gender issues within a budgetary process are important. It is important to provide the strong justification to the government that more we address gender issues, more we ensure gender equality in the society, everybody will benefit from this, then the whole society as well, not only women. Another thing is, as our international consultant recommended, it is easier to incorporate gender perspective into the budgetary process if the program and performance budgeting is in place. So what we are currently doing this, because one of the subcomponents of the project related to the introducing of the performance budgeting methodology within the budgetary process. So it is easier, for example, to incorporate indicators, gender sensitive indicators into the budget programs, and then to track them and to see how they are. So this is another recommendation. And in terms of, as we said, in terms of local budgets or local authorities, there were also some important recommendations, such as a further fiscal decentralization, providing more opportunities for local authorities to develop their own strategies, including the gender equality strategies and programs, so to provide more opportunities for them.
Bobur, what do you think? Is the project using international experience? Because as Faizullah said, they are just starting out this concept of integrating gender budgeting. Then they should be engaging with international counterparts, no?
I think he's exactly the right person to direct ask that question to, because what is the international practice so far? What best experiences have you brought or are you working on bringing to the country to further promote the idea and the concept behind it?
Yeah, I think I forgot to mention that within this analytical work, our experts conducted some review of experience of other countries and best practices in implementing gender budgeting in other countries. So these findings also were presented during the round table. And yes, we are on a way to find out which are the best, which one of them are best suitable for implement of application in Uzbekistan. So we are also working on this. Yeah, so far.
We're working on that, and I think it's a good point to finalize our conversation on today, and there are recommendations. We've talked about the results, and we've talked about partnership, and I think there will be more to come soon in our next program, so we can follow up on the developments.
We'll absolutely have Faizullah invited to our show again, so he can share the findings and what were the follow-up steps that they've done.
So far, we wish you good luck with the project, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for you.
This is it for now. Stay tuned next week to learn more about UN in Uzbekistan.
And of course, we'll bring you more stories from the life of all 9 agencies working in Uzbekistan and the latest developments in the life of United Nations. And please, just final reminder, don't forget to go to www.un.uz for more details of the stories we covered today and the rest of the stories that the week has witnessed. And on Facebook, you can stay in touch with us and keep abreast of the latest developments by visiting facebook.com/Unique Tashkent. So far from me and Lilo and the rest of the team, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.